Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 107 of Build Your Stash and Craft. This week we're going to make our own carved rubber stamps, and you can buy tools from like Speedball and different rubber companies to carve your stamps, but they're quite expensive. So I wanted to try and find a way that we could do it that would be safe and not dangerous, trying to use, like X-Acto knives and that type of thing. And I saw this kit. It's this nail grooming kit at the Dollar Tree, and it had this cuticle cutter in it, and I thought, well, that looks just like the Speedball cutters. So I got it and tried it to make sure that it was actually sharp enough to work, and it works great. So I just wanted to show you, these are a couple stamps that I did this morning, and they're leaf stamp or feather stamps, and I have an innie and an outie. One where the background is colored and the lines are cut out. That's kind of the easiest way to carve. And then one where the lines are left in place and the background is cut out. Now, this is very messy, where the lines did not get, the rubber did not get completely removed. But I love that look. And I thought about taking it off to show you what it would look like smooth. But that's just a matter of just, carving it down a little bit. I like the looks of this, so I did not take those pieces away because I wanted to keep them. And this is the very first stamp that I carved. It's a flower, can you tell? It was terrible. I learned a few things from this, and I'm sure there's a lot of videos out there that will really teach you a good way to carve. But what I wanted to show you is how you can carve inexpensively and get a feel for it. Maybe you really like it and you want to get some more, of the actual items, but this really, really works well. And so I'm going to show you how I did it. So even right here, we've got these little marks here. That came off the corner of this stamp here. And I really like the way that turned out. I like that look. That would be really cool in the background. So it's not hard at all. You have to be patient. That's the biggest thing, is just be patient. So what you're going to do to start, the way that I do it is I just draw a line around my eraser. Where is my pencil? Here it is. I'll just use this pen. But I'm just going to go to the outside edge here. And then remember that your eraser is only as long as from this bent in point back to this out point. So make sure that you put your line here and not all the way out here. Or if you do that, if you put your line there, then what's going to happen when you draw your picture, this is what we're going to draw our picture on so that we'll know what size we can make it. But if you do that, when you go to put that on your eraser, it's going to be this much too long. So if you drew a really cool picture and then go to put it on your eraser and it's that much too long, you have to start all over again. So don't forget that your eraser is shorter on one side than the other, so that you actually have a piece of paper that will fit on top of your eraser. And then you're just going to draw a picture. Now, a lot of people do them in halves. You don't have to use the whole stamp. At the Dollar Tree, they have a great big eraser that's about this big. You could make larger stamps. So you can make them any way that you want to. And so then what you do is you just use your paper, like here is where I drew my feather. And that way you know how large you can make it. So maybe we'll just try, let's just do a half of one. And then the erasers are really easy to cut with your X-Acto knife if you want to cut them in half. And let's try a heart. A heart has a point on it, and it has a dent on it, and it has some rounded edges, so that's a good one to kind of practice with. And that's the biggest thing with this. It costs you $1 for your carver, and it costs you $1 for all 6 of these stamps. And you can use both sides. So just remember, you're going to have to practice. You saw how well my flower turned out the first time, and we'll see how this heart turns out, because I have no idea how it's going to work. So I am just going to do it like that, and then what you do is you just take that. You need a pencil to draw your picture. I'm going to put it on this end. And then what you do is I'm going to use the side of this pen right here and just rub, and that pencil will rub off. Make sure that you hold your paper still. And now you have your pattern. You can draw it right on your eraser too. I just like to do this because then if I mess it up, I can just start over. Okay, so the easiest thing to remember, or the easiest way to do it, is to start, like this is a point. So I'm going to start at this point and go that way, and then I'll come over here and I will go this way. You really can't make a corner. And so the easiest thing to do is to just very slowly just take a little bit of that line. Now sometimes you can go ahead and you can go right around it, just like this. And if it doesn't want to round, when it gets to a point where it gets stuck, what you want to do is, like, let's say I can't go round and around anymore, then just go ahead and go, well, now it's really stuck. And if you push it too far down in, it's going to pick up too much of the rubber and it's going to kind of get stuck. So I just pulled that off, and then we'll just take that out of there. Now for this point of the heart down here, if I try and go like this, I might go too far. So I'm gonna start at that point and really pay attention to where your cutter is and where that point is, so you don't go in too far. And I'm going to start there, and I'm going to come back the other way to meet that heart. And then just carve right out to the edge. Now that looks pretty good there. So I'm going to really try and line that up good. Put it right where the carving already is, right there. That's where I want to get my point, so I can go the other way. And when you're close to your picture, take your time. Be really careful, because if you nick something out that you don't want gone, it's too late. You cannot replace it. But you can still possibly fix it, or make it look some other way. I'm going to come down here where this point is, and I didn't bring this line down far enough, so I'm going to come back in here. And I just had to make that point a little bit longer, but I didn't want to just like nick it and pull it out. So I just kept going until I could get to the edge. And I'm going to start in that same place and come here, and I'm stuck. Okay, so I am just going to, what I do is I kind of like just put my finger on top and pull that out of the way. And the reason I got stuck was because I put this too far down, dug down too far into the eraser. And it is just a matter of, the more you do it, the more little tricks you will learn that will work for you. And there we go. So now I've made it all the way around the heart. And so then what you do is you're just going to remove the extra eraser. And I'm just going to kind of draw a line right across here for me. Because, and again, I put it too deep. The line that we just carved in there is not our stamp. The line is what's going away. So we left our heart. That little spot right there just wants to be difficult. So I'm going to go from my line here and go out that way. As you're doing that, be careful not to get too far back and nick what you've already carved, because I did that on one of my feathers right here, where you can see where the line's coming up and then there's black right there. I know this is kind of hard to see. See, the line comes up here, and then there's a black dot, and then the line continues. I nicked that out of there. And so now when I do my stamping, there is a spot there where the line does not continue. It's not so bad that it bothers me. But after I nicked it, I was wondering how bad it was going to look. So, but then you're just going to take off layers of the rubber eraser. Again, being very careful not to nick the heart, because that's what we were carving in the first place. So we just want to get the rest of everything out of the way. Now, you can continue to carve this very deeply, so all you wind up with when you stamp is a heart. Or you can carve it and kind of leave some of those pieces higher. And the thing is that if you carve it and you leave some higher pieces because you think you might want this little bit of a messy background, which I really love, and then you do it and you think, oh, I don't like that, then you just carve them off. So it really doesn't hurt anything if you've left some of them high and then you don't like it. You just remove them later. And that's how you do with your stamps, is you test it and you look and you see, is there a spot that needs to be removed? And then you go in and remove that spot, and you just continue until you get the stamp exactly how you want it. And remember, it's a stamp, so it's going to take you a while to do it, but you'll be able to use it forever. So, don't rush through it. Just enjoy the process. It's actually quite fun doing this. I actually just like the point of carving, and I think I'm going to just make quite a few of them that are just carved lines, because I really think I'm going to like that. But this works good if you want little tiny flower stamps or little tiny heart stamps. You're doing a card, you can just draw some stems and then just stamp your flower on there in different colors. You could stamp a heart on there as a flower in different colors. Make sure that you get the edges of your eraser, because that helps so that you don't have a really super dark line right there. And I've got a little bit more to remove, and then we will go ahead and try stamping it. I need to be careful as I'm getting down by this heart so that I don't cut the heart as I'm doing this. I'm going to come in here and go away from it. It's best to kind of carve away from your actual image so that you don't accidentally slip and take a big nick out of it, especially if you've worked on it for quite a while and you're just doing those little finishing touches. Remember, finishing touches, tiny, tiny, tiny strokes. Pay really close attention to where you're setting your carver down. And there we go. So that's what it looks like so far. Let's stamp it and see what it looks like. Now, I kind of carved my lines going out like that and like this on purpose, so that if I like the way they look, I also like the angles that they're going at, instead of just, all kind of messy. So let's just take this piece of paper. And I am cheating today. We do have our black permanent ink we made a few weeks ago, but I'm going to use my StazOn ink because Papa's sleeping and all of my Build Your Stash stuff is at his house and I don't want to wake him up. So we are going to use this. And I do believe we have quite a bit built up in our stash, so I think that we are going to buy a StazOn, because this is a really good permanent ink. And we're also going to buy maybe some small little ink pads that we can use now that we're getting more and more stamps. So when you press that on there, And there we go. Now, they picked up the heart pretty well. Well, let's just stamp it that way. I should have not, it actually picked up kind of just the heart when I started, and then I was trying to push the edges in because I wanted those lines. So this is what it looks like. And I guess that, my point of the heart is not perfect. It's a little bit boxy right there. And I could maybe take off a little bit of my stamp there. But it turned out pretty good. I mean, I've only made the 2 feathers, the flower, and now this is my 4th stamp. So really, I'm going to try and pick up all those edges because I want to see what it looks like if I can. Maybe I can't get all the edges. I can't get underneath the heart down there. But yeah, it just takes some time and some practice. It's really quite fun. And I think I might do some that maybe look like a script stamp. I'm going to really push hard around the edges of the heart to push those extra parts down. And you can usually get like 3 generations off of a stamping like this, which is just darker, lighter, lighter. You can even probably go for 4 or 5. The rubber really holds the ink very well, which is probably why they make the rubber stamps out of rubber, right? There we go. I like that. And actually, the lighter they get, the more I like them. So that is really cool. I'm not going to carve any of the backing away. As a matter of fact, I almost feel like I took a little bit too much off down here, just because I want that messiness. But I actually could have went back in then and just carved away all of these spots that were showing up on here and then restamped it again. And if there was any little marks showing, carved those away. Remember, when you're going to carve away spots that you don't like the looks of, remember that your stamp is reversed. So if you've got something over here that you want to carve away, it's not this side of your stamp, it's this side of your stamp. Remember that, when you pick it up and you have to look, sometimes I, had to kind of look and find the spot because I was looking on the wrong side. So that is what you can do with this simple, cheap, what do they call it? Cuticle remover, I think it is. And, I just think that it's really cool that you can do this process without having to spend the money for the expensive, for the more expensive things. And I think that it works out great. If you find that you love it, then you can always save up and try and get, some of the regular tools, because they do have a few different shapes and that type of thing. But this is going to give you a really good idea as to whether you like to take the time, whether it's too fiddly, because there are a lot of different shape tools. And I will tell you, I do have a set of carving tools. Never used them, but I have them. And, just because they're different shapes, it is not going to make it less fiddly. This is a fiddly type craft, and, there's nothing wrong with that. It takes the time, and you enjoy it while you're doing it. So, so that is the biggest thing. But I hope that you enjoyed this week's project. I really had fun doing it. And for next week, we are going to need our punches and some paper, our ball tools that we made, or something like a ball tool that you can use that way. And that's really about it. Paper, cardstock, painting paper, any kind of paper. That's what we'll need for next week. So we don't actually have to buy anything for next week. So just have your supplies ready, and we'll be doing a new project next week. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you have fun doing this. If you've seen people do it and think, wow, I really want to do that, yeah, just go get a nail kit. And don't forget these, oh, look at there. Hold on just a minute. Look at that. You could use this now. It is a little bit, like a file here. This is very smooth. So how I used my pen to burnish the paper down on the thing, you can use this as a burnisher to do that. And you can use this like as a bone folder. You'd have to be careful about this because it is kind of like sandpaper. But I was going to say, you can use these files to distress the edges of things that you're working on, you know, or if you've got something where you've glued paper onto a piece of cardboard and then you've trimmed around it and there's a little extra on there, use a file and go along the edge like this and it will remove that. So these are great tools to use, you know, that just because we only bought for this day, we bought it for that. These can be used on your jelly plates for texture, to make patterns. So don't forget, you know, you can use all of these parts for other things too. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.